Yeah, I thought that's the book where they put something up Fulgrim's butt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 40k Badcast, where we are bad at 40k, and you can too. I'm Dan Boyd, one of the co-hosts, and with me is the lovely Campbell McLaughlin. Campbell, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
I'm all right. So before we get started, I wanted to have a little talk about something that we have in our bodies, tattoos. I have a lot of tattoos. I have like 25. Campbell, how many do you have?
I have just a one.
Just a one. Okay, so if you would, for our listeners, please describe your single tattoo.
So my singular tattoo is on my left shoulder. It is the Crux Terminatus, as illustrated by Wayne England, the dearly departed Warhammer artist. It's the big old badge you're used to seeing on every Terminator model you ever plop down the table.
So with that on your shoulder, does that give you the +1 attack and +1 leadership on your profile?
It does. However, when I got it, I failed my feel no pain save.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
So, I'd never gotten a tattoo before, and I'd heard it hurt, and that's about it. But about 12 minutes into it, I'm used to getting a shot or getting dental work and just thinking, this will be over in a second. I'll just clench up, and it'll be over. That doesn't really work when you're in a chair for an hour or two or three.
Uh-oh.
And I said, hold on a second, and the next thing I know, I was staring at what I later gathered was the ceiling, because I passed the fuck out.
Man.
So I just begged for a trash can, and I'm just like losing my lunch in the trash can, and all the tough, tattooed up girls and guys who work there are running over to me and patting me on the back and bringing me water from next door, and they're a bunch of sweethearts. They just don't look it.
Oh man, you threw up too?
Oh yeah, no, it was. I kept my breakfast light just in case, but oh yeah, I threw the fuck up. And I'm just I'm just sweating like a pig, and I don't know what's water. This guy's got a wet towel on my neck. I don't know what's sweat, what's water. I'm just in a pool of my own misery and weeniness. It was the worst, but it looks awesome, so that's what matters.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Okay, you went back for a second session for that, right? You had 2 sessions?
Yeah, because after the line work, I was just like, I can't do this. So I went back and, got the color, and that was not anywhere near as bad. I was just like, I'm not going to pass out any this time, man. Just don't stop talking. I don't care what you talk about. Oh, your name's Jimmy Snaz? Is Snaz a Christian name? Oh, I thought so.
Oh, wow. That's great, man. All right, so I have a question for you. I have a tattoo on my chest, and it's the symbol of the Trollocs from the Wheel of Time series. Have you read those?
I have not.
Okay, well, there are 13 of them. Or 14, something like that.
That's why I haven't read them.
Yeah, they're really long, and it's pretty good. I don't know if you should read it. But so I have the symbol of the Trollocs on my chest, and I'm curious, what do you think is nerdier, the Crux Terminatus or the Trolloc symbol from Wheel of Time?
I think the Crux Terminatus, when you introduce it with the artist who originally designed it in the 80s, makes it nerdier.
Okay.
But considering I don't even know how to spell the Trolloc, I don't think I can successfully Google that to actually verify if it's nerdier or less nerdy than my Crux Terminatus.
It's okay. I'll go for I get the obscure tattoo, you get the nerdy tattoo. How about that?
I think that's an agree to disagree sort of thing, yeah. All
right, great. So anyways, like I said, welcome to the 40k Badcast. I'm Dan. That's Campbell. We're going to talk about 40k, and we're going to get into who we are and what we're doing with this podcast in a little bit, but I want to kick off the show with something that we're calling the Auspecs, which is sort of what we're working on, what's coming out, what we're excited to buy, whatever, for ourselves. For my first thing on my Auspecs I'm painting some basilisks for an APOC game, an apocalypse game I'm going to in a couple of weeks, and I am about 75% done on those, and they are an easy model to paint. This is an older kit, I think, from 1997. It
might be older than that, actually. It's a second ed kit, I think.
Yeah,
it's tail end of second.
It is. Thankfully, the ones that I got had the new Chimera sprue on it. So no individual track pieces. It's the big amalgamated track pieces, thankfully. But the gun assembly is, it is showing its age.
It's just that 2.5 flak 88 gun. That's all it is.
Yep, pretty much. So fortunately, these models are coming together very quickly, but they are leaving quite a bit to be desired in the detail area. What about you? What do you got going on?
Well, actually, I was going to ask, they're not the Armageddon ones for your Steel Legion, they're just the stock ones?
No, so I was pricing those out because I do have a very large Armageddon Steel Legion army, but it was something like $80 or $90 for a basilisk. I mean, the kit is $50 on the website, and it's a web exclusive now. But I was like, $50, it's a lot. But $90 is way too much for something that I'm honestly not going to use in every game I play. Because right now they're just not very good. You know, I was like, $50, okay, I can do that. So no, I did not. I went with the stock basilisk kits.
All right. Not a bad option though. I still think the kit looks good. It's aged better than a lot of things from the mid-90s.
Yeah, fair enough. It's just it's like when you compare it especially to like the Hellhound kit, which is one of my favorite Imperial Guard tank kits, it's just like it's found wanting, to use the commissariat phrase.
Fair.
Okay, what do you got?
Oh, I'm working on a squad of Cataphractii Terminators from Betrayal at Calth for my Horus Heresy Ultramarines. The kit's stupid easy to put together. Like, the model just... It can't be understated how good these plastic kits are. The one thing that bums me out is you've only got the Lightning Claws and the Power Fists, and there's not the options for other power weapons or combo weapons or anything like that. They're just pretty relegated to just a few loadouts. But
could you do a hand swap on the gun arms for combi weapons?
Well, the guns do come in halves, and I guess I think Forge World sells separate halves for the combo weapons. But
that's cool.
It is cool, but it's like I was hoping they'd be in there too, since they are for the tactical squad kit.
Okay.
But yeah, I sliced the sword off for the sergeant, came in Ultramarines power sword, and got one of them posed up on a piece of rubble, so it looks like he's throwing a big right hook. But the models look pretty great, and I just finished a squad of Lightning Claw ones like a week or two ago, and they'll look great next to them.
So you have two squads now, one with Power Fist and Bolters, and one with Lightning Claws?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, and I figure if I want to go to Adepticon later on this year, if they're not really cool with the whole 30k and 40k thing, I can just run those as stock Terminator squads in a Space Marines army.
Right, yeah. They look great. I love those models. I have a Calth kit, too, that I'm honestly probably never going to put together, but it's great. If I recall,
I pressured you into buying.
You did pressure me into buying it at the Nova Open. And that's all right. We both will be going to Adepticon this year, and
we will.
I don't think we're going to do any podcasting, but maybe we'll talk about it afterwards. Okay, so on my Auspex, I have a couple of new models that I saw a couple pictures of. One of them, let's start with the least impressive, and we'll move towards the most impressive. And when I say least impressive, I don't mean not impressive, because the model is very, very nice. It's just compared to the other one, the first one is Saint Celestine, the living saint of the Departamento Ministorum. She's back with a new plastic model with a couple of attendants. I believe they're twins. I don't know a whole lot about them, but she's back. She's got doves. She's got a cool sword. She's got a ton of scroll work. Just a very beautiful model that I fell absolutely in love with. The one question, Campbell, how do you store that model?
Very carefully in a glass case in your home, away from cats, away from foam, away from your car.
Because I got to think that because it's posed on a long strip of what's supposed to be parchment.
Yes, like the Age of Sigmar Archer guys are too.
Yes, yeah.
But it looks thicker than that. Like, it looks like it might be relatively sturdy, but I'd wait for the custom cut battle foam or something like that for it.
Right.
I would not put that in your stock GW case.
No, I think that thing will fall. I look at a lot of these newer Age of Sigmar and 40k models with a lot of those fiddly bits on them, and like the Nagash model, he's like floating on ghosts and stuff.
It's also like 9 inches tall.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that if you don't have a display case, and now I don't have a display case at home. I keep my stuff in boxes. If you don't have a display case, it's got to be impossible to store that stuff if you are fully assembling it and not keeping it in pieces, except for when you play.
Yeah, like the Knight is, I think, that is the upper echelon of how big a kit can really be and how it be transportable. Because like my Shadow Sword and my Knight each take up half of a KR case, and it's a tight fit. Any more than that is just kind of too much for transport, but I can't deny it as a beautiful piece of art.
It really is.
But speaking of, as I was searching for the just for St. Celestine, just to look at her for reference here, I just found a cosplay picture that just popped up right near the top, and it's pretty impressive, except for on the wings she has the cherubs and then these like ugly pink plastic baby dolls with cyber eyes glued onto them, and they're fucking fantastic.
Is this on the Google image search?
On the Googles.
Okay, I'm going to try to pull this up here. And while I'm pulling it up, let's talk about the other model I want to talk about. And it's the new AdMech guy, the Magos or Magos, or whatever. I forget. I think he's got a specific name, but fuck if I know what it is.
God, he's got a really like hilariously 40k name.
Oh my God, I found it. The Saint Celestine cosplay picture.
Right, the big babies.
This is fantastic. We'll put it. We'll post it up in the show notes for people that want to see it. It is amazing with baby dolls holding up the baby dolls with look like they have bionic eyes, holding up like a cloak or something behind her. That is amazing.
It's just peak 40k.
You know, that's this fucking hobby, man. This fucking hobby.
Nothing like it.
Yeah. But this AdMech fellow, this Magos guy, he's as large as
Belisarius
a Carnifex.
Call.
Say again?
Belisarius Call.
Belisarius.
Like CAWL.
Call. Cool. Belisarius cool. Cool Belisarius.
Belisarius cool.
He is really, really something else. One of my favorite things about the AdMech, especially the upper echelon AdMech guys, are how inhuman they look. Because I got to think, like, once you become a Magos or a Tech Priest Dominus, or once you get a little higher up in there, you're going to be less and less human. Like, the Tech Priest Engine Seers are very, like, basic looking because they are... like lower, they're not. Well, I don't know. They're just like working on tanks in the for the Imperial Guard. But these guys, these upper level guys, they've got to be so inhuman. And I love the way that the new models have been moving towards that to something more inhuman, more machine like.
Yeah, they're further from humanity than I think even the Tower of the Elder are. Because, like, I'm looking at this guy right now, and I just noticed this right now. There's this... he's got the silhouette of a man standing with a leg moving forward, but you look down, and it's this weird mechanical dendrite, and right next to it is another spider leg coming out, and he's got this centipede-esque trail behind him. This model is absolutely insane, and the thought of painting him kind of makes me break out in a cold sweat.
Yeah, there's a ton of tiny little bits on this guy. But, man, what he looks like some sort of monster centipede thing. So cool. So cool. So recently in those pictures from, I believe they posted them up on Warhammer Community, they also had the new Inquisitor model, and I think she's got a name too, but I don't bothered.
Greyfax.
Greyfax. Inquisitor Greyfax. Now, I've read on Twitter, some people have had some problems with this miniature, specifically with the high heels and the boob plate.
So the boob plate, it's unfortunately common. I kind of gloss over it at this point. It's the high heels that kind of confuse me on this one, because she's got to run, and you can't run in those.
Right. So my question to you, though, is Canoness Viridian, who the new model that was modeled off that wonderful
John Blanche.
John Blanche, was that on the cover of the Sisters of Battle?
That was on the cover of the first Codex Sisters of Battle, and at the end of second edition, like 6 months before that got invalidated.
Oh man. That's right. Yeah. Yep. Whoops. Yeah. So she's got some high heels on too. That they're not nearly as pronounced as Inquisitor Greyfax's high heels are.
With her also, I'll give that model a pass for being a reproduction of that artwork. And John Blanche's artwork does not really take realism and perspective and proportion into account the same way a lot of other artists do. I'm not saying that as a criticism. I fucking adore his artwork, but it's more abstract and more just shapes and colors of the focus, less than realistic portrayals of things. So I'm totally cool with everything being wackadoo for that model. For Inquisitor Greyfax, I have a little bit harder a time, although I still think it's a pretty cool model.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, in the fact that I think she's a cool model, especially her stake crossbow combi weapon.
Yeah,
man, that
Van Helsing ass bolter.
Oh man, it's so, and I love that style Inquisition hat, the Pilgrim hat, that one Inquisitor. I guess those two Inquisitor models have. Just such a cool idea. Bringing in a little bit of that religious extremism to the models is a lot of fun.
She also has a nifty little candle on her hat.
She does have a candle hat. It's the best kind of hat.
Seems really dangerous.
Don't leave home without one. Okay, whatever. All right. Anything else you got going on for your Auspex?
For me coming up model-wise, I've actually been working on a shit ton of inquisitorial weirdos. Been ordering... There was the made-to-order a little while ago from GW for a bunch of the Inquisition models, so I got a couple of the Inquisitors and henchmen from that.
Did you get the Space Pope?
Oh, sorry?
Did you get the Space Pope?
I already had the Space Pope.
The Space Pope.
I also had Uriah Jacobson, I think that's his name. He's the crazy hobo with a shotgun and a flaming stick.
I love that
and
guy.
He's just got the huge bandoliers.
Yeah.
Then there's then there's like the Penitent Witch, which is a really hard one to find. It was only in the Codius kit. He's just got these like spider legs coming out the back of him. That model rules. And finally, I just had this urge to convert something, and I went digging through my bits boxes, and I found from the old White Dwarf in like 2006 when Battle for Skull Pass came out for Fantasy, had a little Night Goblin and Dwarf in there. So I got the Night Goblin, chopped out the face, chopped off the shield. I gave him like a weird, gross cherub face, and gave him a torch and a big dreadnought front plate for a shield. And he's got a flame tank on his back, and he's just this weird inquisitorial little gooey gremlin who's just going to die in a game of Necromunda, and it's going to be great.
Okay, well, I need to see a picture of that. So will you put one on the site for everybody to see after the show?
Oh, yeah. I will be doing just that, especially
amazing.
once he's painted.
Okay, so now we're going to move on, unless you got anything else to add.
No, that's all I got.
Okay, so let's talk about this podcast and a little bit about ourselves in this next part of the show. We wanted to do a podcast, Campbell and I, because we have had a lot of really great conversations about 40K in the relatively short time we've known one another. And one of the things that I recognized in sort of a kindred spirit with you, Campbell, is that we both really enjoy having fun with this hobby. Not necessarily winning games, not finding the best way to put a list together, not doing anything that would make us look good in the rest of the hobby. Just, having fun, having a good time, blowing up tanks, shooting mind bolts out of our space wizards. What 40K, I think, at least for me, the epitome is just having a good time.
Yeah, if you look around online a bit, you'd get kind of surprised at the thought of having fun being the core point of the game for most people.
Right. It seems like a lot of people, and you know what, maybe it's just that people tend to speak more about negative things than they do about positive things, but maybe like it's just that the negative stuff gets reported more. We hear about it more. But you look at we're both members of the Something Awful forums, and when you look at some of the times in the big 40K thread there, it can get pretty negative. Lately, I think it's been a lot better.
I think that's largely in part to GW's whole outward-facing social sort of push they've been doing the last year and just giving people what they want.
They're killing it right now.
It's just been hit after hit.
So the whole idea behind this podcast is we're just going to have fun with it. We're going to talk about stuff that we're into. We're going to talk about fun times we've had. We're going to complain about shit sometimes, but we're really just going to try to have a more lighthearted, fun look at the hobby. So we're going to be doing things like we've got a 40K book club segment coming up this show that I think we're going to try to keep a regular segment in the show. We're going to be doing deep dives, well, maybe not that deep, but dives into some of the fluff behind things like Primarchs or Orc clans or whatever, and we're just going to give a little bit of a summary, things like that, and just have some fun with it.
Yeah, we want to keep it informal and kind of casual, but we also want to keep it more or less on topic and not so it's just a rambling 45-minute segments of fart jokes at a time. For that, go to our other podcast, 45 Minutes of Fart Jokes, which you can find at 45minutesoffartjokes.blogspot.com.
Perfect. Good thing you got that plug in there. All right, anyways.
I had to.
Okay, so I've been playing 40K since about 4th edition. I got into it way earlier than that in 2nd edition in the early 90s when somehow I got my grubby little child hands on a copy of the old miniatures catalog with the black and white pictures of all the metal miniatures in there.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And I remember, I don't know how I got it, but I remember just leafing through that thing every day, looking at the cool models and begging my parents for money to go buy them. But of course,
some kids find Woods porn, some kids find Woods catalogs. It's just where you grew up.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, I grew up in an area that got one of the first games workshops in the United States, which was in Springfield Mall in Springfield, Virginia, and went there and scrimped and saved. And I think the first thing I ever bought was a Necromunda gang.
Which gang?
The Redemptionists.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, with the hoods and the flames and the bright color. The old paint shop for those, they had bright red robes with flames on them. And I was like, oh, these guys are so cool. And Necromunda was a much more affordable sort of situation than 40k or fantasy at the time, because you only need like 10 guys, and my poor folks were quite happy about that, at least. But after that, I finally got my shit together enough to put together my first fully completed army. I was in college. It was a Grey Knights army in 4th edition. I still have it. I played with it recently. It was a ton of fun. The models are all metal, except the Dreadnought and the Land Raider, which are both plastic. So it's one of my heavier armies, but I wanted to. I was a college student, so I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't have a ton of time. So I wanted to have a small mod account army, and Grey Knights at the time were, and I still think they are, one of the more expensive armies in the game, points-wise. And I was able to put together a respectable force in not too much time. And then since then, I have a Raven Guard army that I finished in 5th edition, and I have a very large Armageddon Steel Legion army that I think is around 6,000 points right now, that I could field. That just, I don't think I'm ever going to be done with it.
I mean, armies are seldom actually done.
No. They're I'm probably not going to add to my Grey Knights, because just the models now are all plastic. They're way different than the old ones, and I'm kind of happy with the way they are. I can paint a whole lot better now than I could then, but it's I think that one might be done. But my Raven Guard, man, I'm always thinking like, oh my god, I just wanted, when they came out with Kion, I think that's how you refer that supplement book with the Tau versus
Kion, whatever,
that came out, and I was like, I want all of this. I want to do all these formations. But I'm actually pretty good about not buying a ton of stuff all the time and not painting it, except for Betrayal Calf. And I did not dip into that, because I still have a lot of Steel Legion stuff to go. But my favorite part of the hobby, it's I like coming home after work and just sitting down after dinner, getting some models, getting some podcasts going, just relaxing and painting. That's always been my favorite part. Playing is great. Hanging out with the people, the like-minded nerds, is probably the second best part. And when you go to an event like Nova, you get to hang out with a ton of people and just talk about your dumb Space Wizards game, and it's a ton of fun. All right, tell me about yourself, Campbell. I need to know.
All right, so here's the...
Tell me, baby girl, 'cause I need to know.
I'm a fan of tall, dark, and handsome men, long walks on the beach, light dinners before 5, heavy dinners after 7, and the music of Kenny Loggins. But irrespective of that, my dad's a gamer. He's been wargaming since the 70s, so I was basically the wargaming equivalent of a crack baby. I was just born with this in me. So at the age of 6 years old, he used to go to Historicon every single year, which is a big game convention in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I think now it's in Queen of Prussia. I don't remember where it is now, but I used to go down there every summer with him. And, I just play in a bunch of games down there, because it was a big, like, you'd sign up for games and you get into them. But because of how big it was, there was just so many different kind of games around. And I kept seeing the boxes for Warhammer stuff. And then, there was Space Marines and Lizard Men and all this cool stuff you didn't see in the World War II games and fantasy games.
Space Lizards and Marine Men.
Although there was a game I played called Wasserstein Space Orc Oberbrau, which was orcs versus Nazis, and that was pretty fun. But
what?
Yeah, it was some dude's homebrew game. It used like D12s and D10s, and one side got to be like bunch of Nazis, and one side was a bunch of the old 2nd edition Space Orc models. And in hindsight, I can't remember what rules it was based on or anything like that, but it was a lot of fun.
I gotta imagine orcs win that one.
Actually, they didn't, because they just had axes and pistols, and the Germans had machine guns. But because I think it was just the models in the old 2nd edition starter set with the Grotz with the auto guns and the orcs with the pistols and axes.
So it's what happens with orcs right now in 7th edition 40k.
Yeah, essentially, it was a charge of the Light Brigade, but a lot slower. But anyway, yeah, one year I started collecting models for a DIY game I was doing with my friends, which was using like cryomech models and Old Glory models. And this guy was at the flea market, which was amazing. You just find all the shit for super cheap. I got the old 3rd edition starter set for like $20. And he's like, you don't need to use the rule book, just take the models. And I was just pouring through that rule book, and I was like, this shit is so cool. Because there was like the John Blanche drawing of, the Emperor on the throne, all the big photo spreads of these like beautiful modeled boards that were way above anything my friends and I were doing. And that just kind of got me really laser focused on this game. And we kept using the 40k models for a while with the DIY game, but I won every single game because my rules were unbalanced as shit. So we switched over to 40k. So when people complain about balance in 40k, I say they could have it worse.
You're such a fucking power gamer.
Always have been, always will be. But yeah, so my first army was Ultramarines, which was just like dry brushed blue over black primer. At least understood priming back then.
It took me a while on that one.
Yeah, it takes a lot. There's people I meet at the game store now who don't really understand it. But I moved on from them to Dark Angels when that codex came out with the new plastic models in like 2005 or 6. And that's when I got into 40k for real. Then grew a beard and grew up my hair and started a Space Wolves army because I was that guy. I never was into like the wolf shirt and like have a ale of tankard, brother. But yeah, I got a bit into it.
How many Amon Amarth records do you own?
No fewer than 5.
Perfect.
And no more than 1 t-shirt.
Perfect.
I did make mead once. It tasted like prison wine. It was terrible.
Oh, mead is gross, man.
I don't recommend it. But after them, I stopped playing them when they got like a really wolf. Like when they were a weird
Murder
third
wolf.
edition fantasy army that happened to be in 40k. That was my jam.
Murder wolf, Bloodfang.
His murder teeth and his murder paws and his wolf fangs.
You know what? Real quick, we're gonna do an aside here. The naming stuff in Games Workshop. Yeah. Okay, the models are getting so good. The social media presence is amazing. Duncan's painting videos are fucking off the wall good. But the naming shit, and I know that they have to, like, they're protecting IP and they're trying to make it so they can copyright all this stuff, but come the fuck on.
Well, dude, it goes back way far because like my dad actually made a game in the early 90s called Princess Ryan Space Marines, and you bet GW came after him because Space Marine was a generic term. If you look at the VHS copy of Aliens, on the back it calls them Space Marines.
Yeah.
But they like retroactively went after everyone who used that name even after the fact, and yeah. So now it's Princess Ryan Star Marines, which was later became a board game from Avalon Hill. Because as I said, my dad's been doing this forever.
Well, look at you. You're like some sort of gaming prince, the prince that was promised of gaming.
A pauper at best. But but yeah. Anyway, after
I've
that,
been to your house. I can attest.
House is a very generous term. It's like 690 square feet. Most of it taken up with models. But after the Space Wolves, I got the Black Reach set, and I started doing Crimson Fists and Orcs from that. And the Orcs, I just tried to speed paint them as fast as possible. I didn't really love them. I did okay with that army, but I got rid of it later. The Crimson Fist, though, started with my whole thing with retro models, and that's where it really.
Oh, please tell us about your retro Ultramarines.
Yeah, that's where things really start to kick off.
Pictures of those too. These are amazing, guys.
Yeah, so the 3rd edition rulebook had all, like, although there's a lot of newer grimdark stuff that you could still recognize now, there's an awful lot of goblin green bases and weird metal plastic hybrids and bright red guns and bright yellow trim and shit like that, because they still had all these secondhand models they're using for photography. So I always loved that look, and I could never paint that when I was a kid. So in the last few years, I started going back and trying to paint models that way, and I've got like 4,000 to 5,000 points of Ultramarines painted in that style. I've also got a Acadian regiment, like platoon really, to ally with them. That's also painted with like the bright red guns and the bright green BDUs and stuff like that.
It's amazing how much red you've painted, because I hate painting red. Dude,
Mephiston red, it's a fantastic color, and over white, it's like one coat.
No, who the hell primes white? All right, so that's great. It's both of us have been in the hobby for a while. We don't have any expertise or anything. We're not like super good at any part of this. We're just dudes who like to have fun. So anything we say, we're wrong and we're idiots. And feel free to tell us that. And we'll tell you how to contact us at the end of the show. But we're going to move on because in 2 weeks we're going to an event, the 40k Winter Apocalypse up in Philadelphia, run by this fellow named Joe Capena, who runs the Narrative 40k tournament. Well, not campaign rather. Event at the Nova Open, along with Colin Keelick and Jason Wolf. And he also runs a video game and board game company called Rocket Ship Games. But he's hosting in his house, in his basement, a giant 40k apocalypse game in 2 weeks. And we're both going to go. and it's a ton of fun. So last year we had a 17-foot table, about 24,000 points per side.
Good Lord.
It's called Order versus Disorder, but it breaks down really good guys versus bad guys. But we've had like Death Guard on Order before, and like Tau on Disorder before. So it's really just whatever sides are even. We generally do kill team games on Saturday to lead up, and then go load up on cheesesteaks and beer. And then the Apocalypse game on Sunday will start at 9 o'clock and it'll end at 10 o'clock. And no, not that 10 o'clock, but the next one, the one after that, because it's a ton of people, a huge table, ton of armies, and it is a great time. Now, Apocalypse gaming is kind of a controversial subject. Not everybody likes it. I do like it when you're with people you like.
Well, I mean, that's kind of, the game's always better with people you like, and if you're going to be spending 6 hours pushing models around the table, it better be with folks you enjoy.
Right. I've never done an Apocalypse event at a game store with randos, and I don't think I want to. But when I go up to Philly, these are guys that I know and like, and I know that they're not going to be smelling bad. I know that they're not going to be chucking models around like fucking animals. I know that they're not gonna be a bunch of douchebags. They'll have funny accents, but that's just Philly for you. My friend John, who lives up there, he never does this event. He plays. He's got a big Iron Hands army. He's a good dude, but he refuses to play the Apocalypse game because he hates playing Apocalypse. I get it, because there's no strategy in Apocalypse. It's like who's got the best formation / who's got the most D weapons is really how it goes, which, if you're looking for a strategic, like super intense tactical game, 40k Apocalypse is not for you.
I mean, 40k as a whole isn't really for you, but 40k Apocalypse definitely isn't for you.
Right. So I get it, but with people with friends, it's a good time. Now, I say good time, but last year, Campbell, I did not have that great a time.
Why didn't you have a good time?
So I brought a big time armored company, and a lot of tanks.
A lot of boxes.
Yeah, well, it was great. It looked great on the table. Their pictures, we'll link the Flickr album that Joe has of last year's event. And I had a lot of tanks, feeling good about it, looking great. Had a corner of the table, feeling good. And then turn 2 happened. And on turn 2, this guy Brett, really nice guy, he deep struck, I think, 6 units of demonettes in the mask with the precision deep strike stratagem or whatever. And their rule is if you take 6 in the mask, the special character of the mask, they get to charge on the turn they deep strike.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he just put them all right next to my tanks, and a bunch of rending demonettes started ripping my tanks to pieces, and I think took out I counted up, and it was like 75% of the 4,000 points I had brought because they just got off these multi-charges everywhere. And with all these tanks being, rear armor 10, 11, they were just dropping like flies. That was somewhat disheartening for me because it sort of took me out of the battle, and I wasn't happy about it, but I got over it pretty quick, and I was like, I'll just hang out with my friends and have a good time. Yeah. And tried to keep my chin up. At the end of the battle, though, he couldn't take out my Shadow Sword, which wreaked havoc on him after that by running over a bunch of demonettes. Thunderblitz, man. Thunderblitz is where it's at.
Hell yeah.
And then at the end of the game had some very important volcano cannon shots. So it turned out better at the end, but turn 2 was a pretty tough blow for me. Though one quick highlight from the year before that, the Apocalypse game, my Master of Ordnance, the 20-point model, he might be 25 points, the 20 or 25-point model, took out a Warhound Titan.
How did he manage that?
The Warhound Titan had 1 hull point left. It had rather, no void shields. And my dude, had a Strength 9 AP3 ordnance shot.
Yeah, he did.
He didn't hit, but he didn't scatter that far. It still landed on the Warhound. And I rolled that sweet ordnance. It's 2 dice, picked the highest. Oh, yes. Penetrated that motherfucker and blew it the fuck up. It was one of the best moments in Warhammer I've ever had with a 20-point model defeating like a fucking 700-point model, which was all fucking right.
So I've only played Apocalypse a few times, but the last time I played, it was a little more. I had a sort of similar story coming out of it. Similar. It was a smaller game, so it was like 5,000 points with 2 super heavies aside. So I had a Knight Titan and a Shadow Sword versus orcs with like a Kill Crusher, Kill Bursta, and a Stompa. And the Stompa comes up and it wrecks my Shadow Sword, but like in the explosion, it knocks down to 1 hull point, and a squad of autocannons knock off the last like 3 hull points of the Stompa in 1 round of shooting.
Yes.
And then the next turn,
did you tell them to bring it down?
Oh, of course. There's nothing bigger to bring down. And then the next turn, I had a squad of stormtroopers because or Tempestus Scions, whatever you want to call them now, that was out there to kill the
They're still
Kill Bursta.
stormtroopers to me.
Yeah, they're in my heart of hearts. It's what Militarum Tempestus means anyway. It means storm soldiers. It's stupid. Anyway, whatever. It's one dude. I stupidly gave this one sergeant a power fist because I hate points. And he's the last surviving member of his squad, and he charges the Kill Bursta, and he just punches the treads for 2 turns in a row because it gets stuck, and it explodes, and he survives the explosion.
Fuck yes.
Meanwhile, my knight gets charged by a bunch of Mega Knobs and does more damage by dying on them than it does by actually attacking, but you can't win them all.
That's how it goes, man. So it's a dice game,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're going up there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Joe is kind enough to let us sleep on his couch. Well, couches. But it's going to be a really good event.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
Okay, so moving on. Let's move on to what I think is going to be my favorite segment of the show, and it's 40k Book Club.
So what's the point of this show?
The point of this?
Segment.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we couldn't get our shit together for planning because we're recording this on December 27th, which astute
behind the curtain.
Yeah, astute listeners may know is 2 days after Christmas and somewhat busy time of the year. We would like to do the same book in the future, but we did not coordinate that well this time, so we have different books we're going to talk about. We're going to give a basic overview of the books. I will say we are probably going to give out some spoilers, though. My book was written in, I think, 2008 or 9, and I know that your book was written in 1993.
That it was.
So, mine is 2007.
You've had time.
So if you haven't read these books by now and you're still worried about spoilers, fuck you. We're going to go ahead and do it anyways, but this is your chance to bail on the podcast if you haven't already. I believe our 2 books this time are Fulgrim by Graham McNeil and Space Marine by Ian Watson.
The inimitable Ian Watson.
Right. Now, I haven't read Space Marine, and Campbell hasn't read Fulgrim, so this is going to be a
really great segment.
This is going to be a journey of discovery for the both of us. Do you want to start with... I think I want to start with Fulgrim because I think Space Marine is going to be funnier.
All right.
Okay, so Fulgrim. This is book 3 of the Horus Heresy novel series, and which I have read like 10 of these books, I think. Of which there are 40. So
I think 41 as of Master of Mankind.
Okay, yeah. So I'm about 25% in. I don't know if I'm ever going to finish, but this is the 3rd book, and I got to tell you, man, I knew it was coming, and I knew I'd hate it. And I read it, and I was right. I hated it. It's really bad.
I'm glad I met all your expectations.
It's not really Graham McNeil's fault. He's a fine writer. It's just that the Emperor's Children in the Heresy suck so fucking bad. Like, I mean, I am like the first guy to like line up and be like, yeah, fucking Emperor, that guy's cool. But this, like the Emperor's Children are such a bunch of fucking douchebags, and I hate them. They suck. Fulgrim is such a fucking asshole. He's like this vain, pretty boy douchebag who's obsessed with the idea of perfection while doing nothing perfectly.
You know those like the guitar virtuosos like Michelangelo Badio?
I do, actually. That guy's my favorite dude on the planet.
That's who Fulgrim reminds me of. Like the kind of guy who's like, I got my snakeskin spandex pants and I can play 2 guitars at once faster than anyone else on the planet.
At the same time. No, that's Fulgrim, and he's a baby. He's a giant, like 9 foot tall, fucking super genetically engineered baby. All right, so this book is basically about how Horus and Fulgrim are trying to consolidate their power for eventually what's going to be called the Horus Heresy. And I think the crux of it, the crux terminatus, is Fulgrim attempting to get Ferrus Manus on his side. And this is the first book where the drop site massacre of Istvan V comes into play, where the Iron Hands, the Raven Guard, and the Salamanders dropped onto Istvan V thinking that they were going to be backed up by the Traitor Legions, but instead got murked. So this book, so that seems like a very compelling plot, right? Oh, we're going to ambush these guys, and we're going to... That happens in like the last 20 pages. It's given no page time. It's the rest of it is the corrupting influence of Slaanesh on the Emperor's children and how weird shit can get for a bunch of fucking Space Marines.
That can still be interesting.
But it wasn't. Okay. Okay. So I recently read a book called Shadow Sword by Guy Haley, which was an excellent, excellent novel, and I would recommend it to anybody. In it, the Emperor's children are these like weird and playful, but really like duplicitous and evil and chillingly kind of scary creatures who show up and they're like, yeah, we're going to help you guys out. We're going to have a great time doing it. It's cool. But it's like this glamour about them where they seem like beautiful and lovely and caring and kind. But what they're really doing is like murdering people and drinking their blood. And the glamour kind of slips a little bit at one point for one of the characters' viewpoints, and he sees like the horrendous acts and atrocities going on, but he's like too far tempted down Slaanesh's path, so he's like, okay. But the Emperor's children are really chilling in Guy Haley's rendition of them. But in Fulgrim, they're just a bunch of whiny babies who just do weird stuff. There's this whole plot line. Where a woman painter, because they bring the Remembrancers who are there to like make art and diaries and shit about the Crusade, whatever.
And to give point of view characters that people can actually relate to in these books.
Exactly, right. Which some authors do very well, and some don't. And in this case, poor Mr. Graham McNeil did not. She starts painting a picture, and like she kind of goes crazy painting this picture because she's trying to make it perfect for Fulgrim. And so what she starts doing is luring people into her quarters upon the Emperor's Children flagship, murdering them, and then using their blood and viscera to paint this picture. And it was kind of like a Dorian Gray situation. Mm-hmm. But Fulgrim's so fucking crazy that he looks at it and he's like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. This fucking rules. And like he's like super happy about it. Now, Fulgrim, a lot of people are like, oh, he's a tragic figure. He got fucking possessed by a demon and like he's sad and fuck that shit, man. That guy sucks, okay? He comes in and he's like, look at my shitty legion with their shitty leadership, like Eidolon, fucking asshole.
Yep. With a Skrillex haircut.
Fucking Fabulous Bill. That guy's a crazy person.
Who's Fabulous Bill?
Fabius Bile. Have you never heard that?
I actually haven't. I just remember in the old 5th ed summary sheet at the back, it wrote his name is Fabius Bike, and I liked that a lot.
Fabius Bike. Yeah, no, so their leadership sucks. They like suck in battle. Lucius is such a fucking shitty character. He's no redeeming qualities, and he's just a bore to read. And like, it was brutal. So I'm gonna spoil it because fuck it. So it goes on, like the Emperor's children get like crazier and crazier and crazier with the corrupting influence of chaos, and they do crazy stuff, and eventually they like round up all the Remembrancers on their ship, and like there's this giant fucking like scene where like the Slaanesh, like there's this like musical performance happening, and it's making everybody like give in to their basest needs or whatever, and like the Emperor's children are just like, yeah, we're just gonna murder everybody where they're banging. And it's like, it was extremely cringeworthy.
So what did that music that made everyone bang each other to death sound like in your head? What did you picture?
Some sweet, sweet Boys to Men. I'll make love to you.
You mean Men to Demons?
Yeah, Men to Demons. Yeah, so that scene to me was just like crazy over the top. And I realize it's Warhammer 40,000. It's supposed to be like grim, dark, whatever, but it was just a little much for me. And then you throw in like the blood and guts painting and the Space Marines skinning people and putting their faces on their faces and jumping around like a bunch of assholes. Just distasteful. But eventually, Fulgrim is like dicking around with this like demon-infested sword, and he just keeps making these bad choices. And then eventually, the demon's like, "Yo, let me help you out, bro." And Fulgrim's like, "Fine, do it." And demon takes over and kills Ferrus Manus, the Primarch of the Iron Hands,
and all around cool guy when he still had a head.
Yeah, he seemed like a real nice dude, headless now, dead. And then the demon was like, "Haha, fuck you." And Fulgrim's like, "Oh, fucked up, man. This really sucks." And then he meets Horus, and Horus like immediately knows like, "Hey, you're not Fulgrim." And then he's like, "Yeah, whatever, fuck it. Who cares? Just don't fucking fight me. I'm your boss. So as long as you're falling in line, then we're good." And I was like, "Okay, thanks, book. Great job."
Good.
It's one of the weirder books for 40k I've read. Again, I am completely biased because I hate The Emperor's Children, but I will say I did kind of enjoy it because it was one of those love to hate situations where I'm just like, this book sucks, and then kept reading it.
You just hate reading it page after page after page.
Right, yeah. So
or hate skimming it, rather.
Maybe listeners should take that whole review with a grain of salt. All right, give me Space Marine. Give it to me, man.
All right. Well, speaking of viscera and nudity and being fucked to death, Space Marine by Ian Watson.
Oh, my God.
So the first thing people will notice if they have the original cover is it came out in 1993 when GW really did not have a stranglehold in their IP like they do now. It was published by Box Tree, which is, I don't even know if they're around anymore, but it was well before Black Library. But the cover for the original book is that one piece of artwork from Epic 40k where it has Al Pacino from Scarface, and it's obviously traced over him for a Space Marine. It's like the say hello to my little friend bit. It's fantastic.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, like when you see it, you'll see it. Yeah. So the version I have is the reprint from 2010 from the print-on-demand thing. And on the back, it has this little stamp that says Heretic Tomes, just telling you that this is not canon and you should not pay attention to this book.
Yes.
So this book follows the story of 3 gangers from Necromunda who are recruited into the Imperial Fists. And they're all from the George Lucas School of Naming Conventions.
I didn't know that the Sons of Dorn recruited from Necromunda.
Yeah, considering they're supposed to only recruit from Terra, but it's not unheard of for like gangers to get recruited into legions and stuff like that, even now.
All right, keep going, please.
But anyway, so this story follows 3 characters who are from different gangs, and they're all named in the George Lucas School of Naming Conventions. So you have Jeremy Valance, Biff Tundrish, and Lexandro de Arquebus. So Biff Tundrish is a simpleton who talks like one of the droogs from A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, yeah, because Biff Tundrish, that sounds like a real smart guy.
Yeah. And I think he just headbutts things. Lexandro de Arquebus is this like haughty-taughty, like highborn noble who still like throws people in furnaces and is still like a shitty gangster teenager. And Jeremy Valance essentially falls in love with him and idolizes him. And at one point, those 2 characters walk off to fuck. And Biff Tundrish is like, I wonder what they're doing, and he interrupts them, and it just kind of gets glossed over. And this entire book is just Ian Watson laying his fetishes out on the table.
Biff likes to watch.
Oh, Biff doesn't understand, which is why he doesn't watch. So this book follows them from being recruited as gangers in Necromunda to their scout initiation, which involves them going through what I can only call a magical murder maze, where they need to go through these like room by room by room. Like each room has like more gravity, or is a pain field, or is an electric field, or whatever. But they have to do it naked. And if they pass, they get a brand on their right buttock showing that they passed this ritual. Why they have to do it naked while the entire chapter watches, I really don't know. So they all pass because they do it together as a team, and they move on to become Scout Marines. And this involves them. It's cool because the book's broken up into 3 parts, like Initiates, Scouts, Marines. I actually think it would be cool to use that format for a more sane book to introduce someone to the setting, but alas, this is Space Marine by Ian Watson. As Scouts, they go to quell this uprising, and in the process of that, they take over a Titan and make it flip off another Titan, then they punch the other Titan.
Nice.
Yeah, that part's cool. And then as Marines, they go and fight in the tunnels fighting squats, because squats are in this book. and like, and it's cartoonish. Like, it talks about a part where like a guy squeezes a squat by the neck and his eyes pop out like it's a fucking Ratfink cartoon.
Perfect.
And then he throws him against the wall and he sticks to the wall and like slowly peels off like it's a cartoon. Like, this book is so freaking weird. And then from there they go on to fight Tyranids in a final section of the book, where at which point they actually meet a Zote, like an actual like psychic Zote thing that kills Biff Tundrish, the one character I even could relate to in this entire book.
He was my favorite character.
I know, by process of elimination, he was my favorite character too. And like because Biff is like
the lesser of three evils.
Of the three. Well, there's also other characters such as Chaplain Lo Chang and Huzzy Rourke, the sergeant. But yeah, basically Biff also takes up like scrimshawing, because the entire chapter does this scrimshawing thing where you get like the finger bones of guys and you like carve thousands of pieces of poetry on them and stuff like that, which they still actually have in the fluff, I think.
So Biff gets biffed.
Biff gets boffed. Yeah, he gets proper tundrished at the end of the book. But I don't remember if Jeremy lives or not. I don't care. But Lexander de Arquebus does live, and he goes on to be in a bunch of other books written by Ian Watson in the Inquisition War trilogy.
Okay.
Which is interesting. But to just kind of highlight how gonzo this book is, I'm going to read a section from it.
Are you going to do voices? The answer is yes. You better fucking do voices, Campbell.
Well, this is almost no dialogue in this part.
Oh, fuck.
So I'm just going to be I'm going to try to read this in as narratively a fashion as I can.
All right, do it.
Chapter 16. We're going in through its anus, Biff whooped boisterously. Indeed, indeed. What else could that puckered sphincter be in the white bony hull of the vast gastropoidal alien vessel? The leviathan that loomed ahead seemed a cross between a nautilus and an omnivorous spacefaring snail. It was the length of a 4K asteroid, and almost as high where its shell spiraled upward in a circuit of increasingly small osseous chambers. The shell was bleached chalky by eons of radiation. Even as the armored fists, tightly packed into a stretched boarding torpedo, stared at the forward view screen in its mount of bronze bones, that sphincter pulsed. It expelled a quick milky cloud, which the torpedo sensors assayed as consisting of bitter liquid dregs, foul gas, and ashy debris, the fart of Leviathan.
What?
The post-it note I have on this page, it just says space sphincter penetration.
What? Tightly
on
packed
board
in the boarding torpedo. The stretched boarding torpedo.
Yeah. Now, on board the ship, they need to go through sphincter door to sphincter door and punch through the sphincter doors with their power fists, because everybody has a power fist. They go through what is written as a cloacal door at least once.
Oh, God. You were telling me before the show how bonkers this shit is. I didn't think it was this fucking bonkers.
Oh, yeah. No, a dude gets eaten by a space vagina. No, all right, I'm going to read this again. Like, I'm going to read a second part. I don't want to oversell this, but I have to oversell this.
Okay, go.
Across the base of the rightward passage, there swelled a large pink cyst. It was suggestive of some giant mutant female ape's bum presented for fertilization. A low labial crater wall surrounded a semblance of a mouth with floppy lips pressed shut. The cyst was 2 meters across. Marine Dolph Harlan was the first to try to cross the obstacle. He shut his visor before treading tentatively upon the side of the cyst prior to leaping. The surface was slimy. This would not have mattered, except that just then a larger relative of the patching bats came flapping at Harlan. It wrapped hooked wings around his helmet. As Harlan tore it loose, he took an inadvertent step forward. He began to slip. The cyst pulsed, dilated. Harlan fell through its open lips. Fell? He almost seemed pulled, so swiftly did he disappear through the floor. The lips clamped shut again.
Oh my fucking God.
He gets eaten by the vagina.
Oh my fucking God.
Yeah, that's this fucking book.
That is the worst thing I've... Oh, like... God. That's great. That is really good.
This entire book is full of, like, all these weird fetishes that are, like, going on. Like, there's vor stuff, there's poop stuff, there's butt stuff, there's, like, just a bit of gay stuff, which is totally cool by me, but, like, it's really obvious.
Oh my God.
That I was curious. I'm like, what is Ian Watson's deal? Is there some analyst of this guy out there? Like,
can we party with this guy?
He's still alive.
He's got to be a fucking hoot.
Well, he's 73 years old. I did so basically every time I came across a passage like this, I'd call my girlfriend over and read it to her, and she'd just say, "Why the fuck are you still reading this book?" And I'm like, "Because I have to see what happens next." But we did some research into him. We found that he has written a lot of science fiction and like weird tales and stuff like that. But he also has written in the Mammoth Book of the Best New Erotica, Volume 7.
Oh, nice.
So I unfortunately have not had the time to prep and read his parts of the Mammoth Book of Best New Erotica, Volume 7.
We'll save it for episode 2.
But I would really like to.
Okay, yeah, that's really good. So just a quick note before we move on. We were talking about this book to do for book club, and I looked on Amazon. I was like, I'll just get a fucking softcover copy, see what's going on. Yeah, the cheapest one I found was $130, and the most expensive one I found was $2,400.
It's a real good book.
Yeah, real good. Okay, so we're going to do one more quick segment before we get the hell out of here, and it's called Fact or Fan Fiction, where Campbell reads me a passage of either something from the Black Library or a piece of fan fiction written on the internet, and I get to guess which one it is. Are you queued up? Are you ready to go, Mr. Campbell?
I am queued up. I got my material.
All right, give it to me.
The Dark Eldar raiders ran in circus trying to put themselves out. Lieutenant Van ordered his men to bring out the heavy weapons to tear them a new one. Platoon, we have them on the run. Let's show them what happens to those who raid the Wind Colony for the Emperor. As the last fled, Van rallied the remaining of his force of 55, now 37. Van thanked the God Emperor, for no one was taken alive. Stig, what was the aliens raiding? Asked Van. Sir, I don't know, but it was something in the old ruins. The old ruins out the settlement was an old Blood Angle temple, over 10,000 years old for when their Primarch was still alive. Not even their Lord Dante truly knows is it that he put in there. Now it is in ruins due to an orc invasion over 50 years age, which caused the civil war that is still on today. Okay, let's find what the hell they wanted. I need 10 men, the rest go back. I need someone who know how to use the Raider ACP. Are you fucking stupid, or did you got shot in the head? Using alien tech is illegal, a soldier said. Yeah, so we can get these. No one here. It's okay. Fine, I do it. Van and his squall mounted on the Raider van. Had to push the fried body out of the way and started the tank. As it hovered, the soldier held on, for they never went on an anti-gav before. In no time, let cover the 20 miles and reach the temple. Van. Okay, go in twos, men, and watch out. The only ones who know what's in this place is Sanguinius and our beloved Emperor. Van had no idle want to expect, but holding his bolter, he went in. All
right, so that's you wrote that. That's your fan fiction that you wrote, correct?
That is Baal by Lord Dante.
Ooh.
Where'd you find it? Is from fanfiction.net.
Okay.
As an ad note, it was filed under Anime Zoids, which is a show about giant animal robots.
Oh my god, that is
the writer.
That is so fucking great.
The writer is also known for writing Teen Titans Aqua Teen Hunger Force crossover fanfiction.
Oh man, you're gonna have to send me the links for that one so I can get my hooks into that meaty deliciousness.
Oh, I got him in the show notes.
Yeah, great. All right, so that's going to do it for us. Campbell, why don't you quickly tell people how to contact us and where they can find out all of our beautiful pictures and crap that we're going to post.
So you can check out our website at 40kbadcast.com. If you have any questions, maybe ones about giant space anuses or carnivorous space vaginas, you can contact us at contact@40kbadcast.com. As for me, I've got a YouTube channel called Camhammer, which is at youtube.com/c/Camhammer Show, where I put out game reviews, hobby videos, and other stuff every other week. I just put out a review on Space Hulk Deathwing. I thought it was pretty good. Dan, you have anything else to add?
We're going to get a Twitter up and running at some point. I don't know what the fuck we're going to do with it, but I'll probably make fart jokes or something with it at some point.
Sounds pretty good.
Okay, so that's the end of the show. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Before we go, one last thing. Give me an inspiring quote.
All right, this one is from Inquisitor. I have bested horrors that chill with the gaze and tempt unreasoning terror. I have faced death eye to eye and blade to blade. I have stared into the eyes of insanity and met their all-consuming stare. I have done all this for you, for your protection and the guarantee of a future for mankind.
If that doesn't get your juices flowing, I don't know what will. My name is Dan Boyd, he's Campbell McLaffy Taffy, and this has been the 40k Badcast.